I grew up in an environment where boundaries were often blurry and confusing. So, of course, as an adult, I didn't really know what they were, how to set them, how to respect them, or even why I needed to. And let me tell you, that one thing nearly cost me everything: my marriage, my relationships with my kids, and unfortunately, it did cost me and my husband as well our relationships with our own families. I've been on every side of them, and I've also been on every side of the estrangements that have happened when those boundaries were either misused or completely missing. I've violated boundaries without realizing it, and I've had my own ignored. I've also seen the very real damage that can be done when there's a dismissal of something they like to call small, and how it can permanently destroy the very relationships that we treasure the most. Through my own healing work and also the women that I work with as a coach, I've also learned that boundaries are not just a buzzword. They are not just a nicety. They are a necessity. And they sit at the foundation of every healthy relationship. And yet, violations of them, or disregarding them, or the complete absence of them, one way or another, on one part or another, is at the roots of almost every estranged and shattered relationship. And it is by far the biggest driver. Unfortunately, boundaries often get a bad rap, especially in the estrangement communities. Let's talk for a minute about what boundaries really are so that we can clear up some of that confusion. Most people like to think of boundaries as walls: hard, fast, tall, strong barriers that shut people out. And there's a lot of rhetoric out there about how they're a punishment, or they're unfair, or they're mean. But they're actually none of that. They're actually doors. And those doors open surprisingly easily when the people on the other side do what it takes to make it happen. They simply exist to protect your own physical, emotional, and mental well being by defining what you're going to tolerate, what you're not, where you're comfortable, and where you're not. Especially in families where boundaries are confused with rejection or loss of control or punishment, the dysfunction is sure to grow. Now let's talk about why boundary violations are such a big deal. When you ignore somebody else's no, or you dismiss their needs for space, you're not just disagreeing with them. You're telling them that their feelings don't matter, and that in many cases, they don't matter. And certainly their needs don't matter. For adult children who grew up like I did without any predictability or boundaries, this can hit really hard, because it's not about entitlement or them being too sensitive or too angry or too whatever. It is about survival. In this day and age, our young adult population has a lot more access to mental health information than people my age ever did. And they probably learned this stuff way sooner than we did, sooner than we should have. But all that aside, the best way to protect your family from falling apart or shattering is to catch up and to learn what they know. Because if their boundaries are consistently disregarded or ignored or treated as foolish, they already know they don't have to tolerate it. And they probably won't tolerate it. And here's a little secret: they shouldn't tolerate it. And they may find themselves in a position like I did, where they realize nothing is ever going to change and they can't continue the fight. And they feel the only way that they can make the problem stop is for them to step back, even if that means a full-on estrangement. So what is the difference between boundary violations and healthy parental concern? This is where a lot of parents struggle. This is where I struggled for sure. I always said, but I'm just trying to help. Except they didn't want my help. They wanted to figure it out themselves and prove that they could do it. Even now, I can see where a lot of their choices are going to lead. I can see that they're not going to go well. And that mama bear instinct in me still kicks in and wants to protect them. But I can't. This is their season to learn their lessons. And even when these well-intentioned parts of me being a mom still pop out, and they may even be true, and they probably are true, here's what's also true. Healthy concern also respects autonomy. When our kids were younger, our job as a parent was to step in, to correct, and to protect. But that changes when they become adults. Whether they're ready to be adults or not, whether they're acting like adults or not, it has still changed. And they need to be given that chance to fail, to make their own mistakes, and to learn their own lessons. Hopefully, they'll come back to us for support, but that doesn't always happen. It's important to understand that healthy connection and healthy communication offer support without demand. A boundary violation is different. Those happen when your need to be heard as an adult, as a mom, as the one in charge, outweighs their right to think for themselves and their right to make their own choices. Or if they're punished either physically or emotionally for doing what they want to do instead of what you said they need to do. Because intentions don't erase impact. If your adult child has felt dismissed or controlled or unheard or unseen, that's their reality. And those experiences have likely shaped their decision to step back or to completely terminate the relationship. So here's another favorite question that I know many of you are asking. What if it's the kids that are violating the parents' boundaries? Oh, the world doesn't like to hear this, but it is true. Boundaries and respect go both ways. And entitlement among kids, and especially among young adults, is a very real thing, and so is parental abuse. If your child or their partner, or maybe even one of their own kids, which might be your grandkids, are ignoring your limits, it's not okay. If they're trying to grab power, to manipulate you, or to call the shots, it's not okay. In so many cases, though, they're not just being brats. They've learned this behavior from somewhere. And they also do it for a reason. They will seek to control their external world and the people around them, which might be you, when they feel out of control and powerless on the inside. But here's the deal. You can't change what happened before. You can't change what happened to them. You can't control their behavior. You can't control how they feel. You can't control what they believe or even how they perceive anything. But you can model healthy behavior and healthy boundaries for yourself. And you really can say no. Even if you've never done it before, even if it feels awkward or weird, you can start doing it right now. You can also make it clear, both with words and with your own actions, that it is never okay for them to use bad behavior to get what they want. If they're manipulating, triangulating, throwing a temper tantrum, or being verbally or emotionally abusive, or ramping up the gaslighting, that's a no. And it also can be, and I'm not going to even participate in this. And then just let the chips fall where they may. They don't get the money or the privileges or free babysitting or use of your car if they're being disrespectful. Nor do they get to keep living in your house or on your dime if they're not going to be kind, respectful, and contributing to the relationship. If they want those kind of privileges, they need to be nice. They need to be actively contributing to the functioning of a healthy relationship. And if they don't want to do it, they need to live somewhere else with limited access to you. So what if your spouse overrides them and gives into them anyway and acts like it's not a big deal? Well, that's a problem with your spouse not respecting you. And this is a really good time to call them on it. Let them know that this is doing more harm than good. It's not keeping anyone's peace. It's especially not keeping your peace. And that's something you need to fix before the wedges that those things create destroys your marriage. This can be a lot, especially if this is new to you or you're just starting now to make some changes to implement some healthy boundaries. And you may be wondering, this is so much, I don't even know where to start. So which ones are the most important? Obviously, all boundaries are important and they do serve a purpose and they do matter. But the ones that cut the deepest, especially in a relationship between parents and adult children, are the ones that are tied to autonomy and respect. It's things like dismissing their emotions, invalidating their experiences, or overstepping their decisions and their right to make their own mistakes and lead their own life. These are the kind of violations that break trust. And once that trust is broken, it's not easily repaired. It's not just going to be an apology that fixes everything. It's about rebuilding safety. And I'll be honest with you, if boundary violations have been part of the problem, they're done. and they're probably not going to come crawling back to you, begging for you for forgiveness, or even telling you what you did wrong either, because more than likely they've already tried and it fell on deaf ears. If you remember nothing else from this video, I hope you remember this, that boundaries are about safety and respect. When they're violated, whether it's intentional or not, they erode trust. And that trust is the foundation of every healthy relationship and of every family. And without it, connection cannot survive. Neither can harmony or peace. Yet the way forward is not in blaming outside influences. It's not in shaming ourselves. It's not sticking our heads in the sand or getting stuck in loops of trying to figure it all out. I promise you, it is learning how boundaries actually function in safe and healthy relationships, and then practicing them in your own life with everyone, starting as fast as you can, because the more you practice them, the better you'll get at them. And the better you get at them, the more people will take them seriously and respect them. If you'd like to dive deeper into any of this stuff, or you'd like more support, I'd love to talk to you personally about these things. Check out the links below in the description for some ways to make that happen. And if you found today's video helpful, you're going to want to keep watching more. This video is number 6 in a series of 7 that I've been doing about hidden dynamics that drive estrangement in families. This video right up here is all about another very sinister and often very stealthy and invisible family dynamic that appears in many estrangement situations, even though people don't have words for it. And yet it connects very directly to what we've covered here. Go ahead and click on that video and I'll see you over there.